Hi you guys, my name is Oshun the Great, and welcome to my beautiful channel. A few things. I am mad because I lost a ring, and that's not very mystic of me. And I also dropped lipstick out of the tube, so I'm trying this like different color, darker color from Revlon here in Mexico, where makeup is super cheap and it's hot as fuck in Mexico. And I took a break, and my days consist of staring down people in restaurants until they give artists money here who play for the restaurant clients. But yeah, so today I want to talk about the culture of self-doubt, self-esteem, and self-possession. So the other day I was kind of researching the difference between self-possession and having a healthy self-esteem. And the reason I did this is because I feel like as a black woman, as a minority, as a marginalized person, I get stereotyped an awful lot, and something that I notice a lot of people try to humble me with, and humble black women a lot with, is trying to take our confidence from us. And so it's very threatening to systems of control, to insecure people, for women or minorities, for example, to be confident. And so much so that they take our healthy self-esteem that a lot of times we get through strength, that we get through life experience, they take it as offensive, or it is like threatening to everything, the powers that be, all of that. And that's just my personal experience. And self-esteem in general in this generation seems like a threat to, I don't know, as a society, how we got to the point of being so insecure. And even as a spiritualist, on a spiritualist tip, when I do reading for people and everything, just even observing and pondering life, we are so fucking insecure. I don't know if it's like the era of the internet, or like just comparison culture on top of that, or is everything is just amplified at the moment. Social dynamics are so flooded with groupthink and people not wanting to think for themselves or to be authentic, and it's kind of lame to be yourself at this time. And so what I noticed, a lot of people, Google says self-possession means, it goes hand in hand with narcissism. So it means thinking so highly of yourself, like to the point where it's like op behavior. And healthy self esteem is just like a more balanced approach. And so we live in this culture where it seems like we have this crab in a bucket syndrome, where everyone wants everyone to be on the same level or to not one up each other. And so it kind of becomes this thing where we have blurred lines of self esteem and self possession. And something that I like to talk about a lot on my channel, a lot in general, is having self-conviction. And a lot of my content is about how to have healthy self-esteem. And there was a study that was done. One, they noticed a lot of people don't have internal dialogue, which is fucking scary as an introvert. Two, they figured out that black people in general, they say, have higher self-esteem than their peers. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a cultural thing or like some kind of steez involved. But a lot of my content, intuitively, I feel like I have to teach people basic self-esteem. And that's the same thing that I get like bullied for, ironically, just being myself. Um, so not to mention too that in our culture, in our societies of consumerism, capitalism, all these isms, it is probably no wonder really of why everyone and everything needs us to dwell into self-doubt. And control is a big one. Also, civilians are the number one people who kind of like hold these oppressions intact. So men, privileged people, white folks, whatever the case might be, these people double down on these control tactics because nobody wants to relinquish their power and all that shit. And so we have a culture that, like, we can't decide what is like flexing and what is actually someone like labeling their accomplishments or achievements. And so, for example, I have my achievements in the years that I practice in my craft. As a woman, that's threatening because you're not supposed to be egoic, but it's just true. And so it's like all of these things get misread, even though I'm just being myself. And ironically, a lot of people copy minorities' personalities, women's personalities, and take credit for it. So it's like maybe they resent who they have to steal from. And something that Hoodoo has been teaching me in spirituality, depending who you talk to, some spirituality thinks it's sinful when you center yourself too much, and I think that's problematic in itself when it's too extreme. But Hoodoo has been teaching me self-preservation and to center yourself, because I feel like when you're a living, breathing organism in this world, basically you need to have a healthy self-esteem in order for anything to work. And I feel like we've gotten so far off the plot at that point in spirituality, and maybe we need to teach self-esteem in school or something, I don't know. But yeah, we're, to me, in my opinion, we're like slacking as a society of like our self-esteem, and so much so that I think a lot of our problems in society where these kids are like lashing out or killing their parents, and these are extremes, shooting up schools, whatever the case, it could just be a microcosm of it. But the pressures put onto people in society to like have it together and shit, and it's just, we're so far gone from a culture of humanness and nurturing and all this shit, in my opinion. And then obviously there's like, so in spirituality, some people say, oh, you shouldn't be so self-centered, you should be selfless. And a lot of times I think for minorities or like disadvantaged people, that's actually counterproductive or counterintuitive to our survival. And I think a lot of things teach us in spirituality to strip us of our power, actually. And then you have chaos culture mixed into all of this, because we live in cultures that need to keep you on your toes. Again, it goes with control and leaving people disempowered. And so it actually becomes a radical thing when you have self-esteem, which is fucking insane. Everyone should be able to like have self-esteem, but when you go to certain parts of society, for example, or cultures or whatever, depending, like a lot of people want the bar low because that means nobody has to be high achieving. And this is where the groupthink also gets out of hand and everything. And chaos culture is one of those things where it goes hand in hand with colonialism. I'm going to make a video about that. But chaos culture and colonialism and things go hand in hand. Modernization goes hand in hand with chaos culture. It's just to keep everyone off balance, because then you can keep everyone confused. And the fact that we put so much emphasis on pay up all your debt instead of living a free, full life is crazy. And so yeah, chaos culture plays a huge part in just keeping like no safe havens. And I think this makes people extremely insecure. So if you don't have certain milestones in life, or you can't keep up with the Joneses or the certain status quo, then you are like a nobody, and then like you get stumped on and kicked when you're down and all of that. And so yeah, it's so crazy. And the irony is, as human beings, like we want rules that keep us confined to this bullshit. And so people still believe in wage slavery and in the way we run things now, the dollar, colonialism, all these systems, capitalism, instead of questioning shit, instead of resisting and fighting back. And so until we can, I feel like we're gonna deal with all this bullshit of low self-esteem. And I don't think it's fair just because someone has low self-esteem to just make someone else suffer. And we're kind of normalizing this bullshit of like, you know, no one is allowed to be great. And so the difference between, I think everyone should be able to be allowed to have self-esteem. And unfortunately, we live in a world where certain people are just handed privileges, and that makes people insecure as well. And I don't know. I think like we have to fight for a lot of things. We have to attain self-actualization, self-esteem, and all these things, and fight to preserve it, and fight for our right to take up space. And that becomes very dangerous and threatening to everyone, because, you know, it becomes life and death at a certain point when people are jealous of their friends or jealous of their peers. But what is a life half lived? It comes down to that. And maybe awareness can help protect people, but it's no point in half living a life either. It's just something that I wanted to touch on and that I noticed. We live in a very, very insecure society. Till later.